And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce a fireside chat that we're going to have between a couple of product pros in the room. Leading the interview will be Connected's very own VP of Product, Jonathan Savage. Jonathan? Ah, there he is. Before joining Connected, Jonathan was at The Score, a global sports app with over 9 million users, where he led the product engineering and design teams for over 10 years. Sounds like a fantastic job. It was. And joining him is Klement, principal at Idealized Innovation and author of When Coffee and Kale Compete. And Alan, I will answer that for you. I will read your book too, but it's coffee, come on.
Yes.
Yeah, it's coffee. So please join me in welcoming both of them as they discuss how to use jobs to be done to build better organizations. Thank you.
So, Alan, welcome to Elevate Product here at Connected.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited.
Great. We were chatting in the green room a little bit about, there's probably a lot of people that have heard of the term jobs to be done, especially if you work in strategy, design, or research. And also, there's probably a lot of businesses struggling to innovate that would benefit from this thinking. But jobs to be done is kind of a challenging mental model to really get your hands on. And can you give us an introduction to?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think so we're still struggling to figure out just the right way to answer this question. And I think part of it is because it's valuable to everyone individually and also in the organization. So you kind of have to know your audience, right, to figure out kind of what it is and how it's valuable. But for me, I think jobs to be done, the best way to think about what it is to maybe talk a little bit about its purpose, like what purpose it serves. And so I would say that the purpose is really to help us understand growth, right? Why it happened or why it doesn't happen. And so we're trying to answer that question, and one way where we're doing it is kind of looking at markets and thinking about why people are why consumers are engaging in markets in the first place. Why are you shopping? Why you're out there buying something new? And also like how they actually go through the process itself. So that's our exploration, and where we're at right now is this idea that, well, okay, once we've investigated people, how they use markets, we've learned that, well, actually, we've seen things how people are looking at, when they are shopping, they're investigating products across product categories, right? So it's not just about the Snickers bar, right? I'm competing with a sandwich, I'm competing with a banana, I'm competing with all these other different things. And so once we kind of abstract to that level, we recognize that, well, people seem to be engaging in markets because they're trying to make some meaningful change in their lives, right? They're trying to make some change. It's not about the product itself, it's about what does the product do for me. And I think that's where also the job to be done, the jobs analogy comes in. It's like, well, I'm trying to make some change, I'm trying to achieve something, I'm trying to realize some benefit. So I'm gonna hire a product to do all the work for me so I can have all the benefits and make the meaningful change. So I think that's what jobs to be done is about, and I think we could go into a rabbit hole of all the particulars of it, but I think at a high level it's about understanding how consumers use markets, why they buy things, why they really buy things.
People need to make progress in their lives.
Yeah, that's one thing that we say, because again, if we're trying to understand growth, it's like, okay, we sell a product, or we want to sell a product maybe in the future that does not yet exist. Okay, how are we going to get people to start buying this? I mean, think about our lives, especially now with the internet and so on and so forth. Our time is limited. So we have to figure out how are people going to stop doing this particular purchase behavior and start buying our stuff. And so this idea like, well, if we can offer people progress in their lives, like something better, we're helping you become a better parent, better than the way you're trying to do it right now, or we help you much better, impressing other people at work, or whatever it is, kind of whatever self-betterment that we can give to you in a way that will persuade you to fire whatever you're using today and to hire us, to start buying from us.
Right. And we chatted about this before as well, is what isn't jobs to be done?
Oh, yeah.
To define.
Yeah, so I think it's very helpful to kind of take this via negativity approach, right? It's like, it's not just saying what something is, but also understanding what it isn't. It's not about studying how people use the product itself. So, because there's lots of stuff out there. There's, I'm sure people up here talking about usability, human-centered design. So, if you want to, study someone how they are using a product and you want to improve it, how they use it, there's lots of great stuff out there. But that's not really what jobs is about. We want to say, okay, why did you buy this thing in the first place? What change were you hoping to make in your life that caused you to start shopping, to start comparing things together, and to buy something new and to change your historical market behavior?
Right. Well, my exposure to jobs to be done was at the Switch workshop at Basecamp, where Bob Mesta and Chris Vieck from the Rewired group ran a workshop there. I also had heard the Snickers story as well, so marketing, you're not you when you're hungry. That was my exposure, but jobs goes a little farther back than that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting story. We could probably spend a half hour just talking about this. Actually, we talked a little bit about before. It's interesting talking to like Bob and Rick Peedy and John Palmer, some of the guys who first came up with this idea in the 90s, which also kind of helps us understand kind of why jobs and how is it different. As they told me, it was at the time in the 80s and early 90s, you won in the marketplace by making a better quality product. So if you ever type in total quality movement, maybe some people who've been around long enough know about the total quality movement and the voice of the customer stuff that started really happening in the 80s and 90s. That was how you won in the marketplace. It was making a faster horse. Like that's how you did it. And two interesting things were happening. So for them as product and innovation consultants, they were finding some problems with that model. But interestingly, they were also working in the food space. So like this idea of if you're making a Twinkie or going to make a Twinkie, like needs assessment how does that really work? Like how do you do that? Or the usability of a Twinkie, I don't know. You just kind of wrap it, put it in your mouth, and you swallow. I mean, it's they needed another model, and so that's where they kind of came up with this idea of, well, what if it's they're buying these products or things because they're trying to. It's not about using the product, but they're trying to use the product to help change themselves or to create some experiences that they haven't had in the past before. And so I think that's, and then, we could go on again about that, but it's very interesting. And I think that's important too, and I'll touch about this on my talk later today, but yes, things like user experience, and that's good. You don't want to have bad user experience, but that's not the only thing you should be on your mind, especially if you're a VP of product or a product manager. You're going to think about how are we going to get more customers, or how are we going to keep people from leaving.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because working in an organization and having this mental model, this way of thinking, is very interesting, because often product managers and product owners struggle to yielding to complexity, right? People have ideas, a product loses focus, you have different stakeholders in the company who have different opinions about the product. So I became very interested in the idea to sort of drive consensus or clarity on where we're going with our product. How can jobs theory be used to help an organization as a whole?
Yeah, so I think so what I've learned from the guys who've been doing this for a long time, who've seen things tried and failed in the 80s and through the 90s, and I'm starting to kind of understand it myself too, is once upon a time you could, I don't want to say it was easy to win the marketplace, but it was pretty straightforward. Okay, we're gonna, let's say 50 years ago, we're gonna make a product, push it out there. Maybe we'll have one other person in the product category too. and then we'll just blast people with TV and newspaper ads, and eventually they'll probably buy it, or we'll persuade them enough to buy it. That model worked 50 years ago, and maybe even 30 years ago. But now it's only gotten easier to make a product, especially a software product, and we're competing internationally now. People are not just buying. I don't just go to the grocery store. We talked about this, right? It's not about fighting for shelf space.
Yeah.
At my local grocery store. It's like, wow, you're actually competing on Amazon, or even DHgate or Alibaba, like all over the world. So it's just the low-hanging fruit of making a product that wins the marketplace. I think those are kind of gone, and so I think it's most important now that in order to be successful, everyone in the organization has to be better at working together. So you have to have marketing people and customer success people, designers, engineers, product managers, strategy. They need a common language to all say, yes, this is the business that we're in. This is actually the type of progress customers are hoping to make with us. But this is also, here are the types of progress that we're not trying to solve for them.
Yeah.
So let's not, do that. This is the business that we're in. And so when we're thinking about ideas, first of all, right, we can say yes and no.
Yeah.
Does this help them achieve progress or not? But it also, helps us work together. So when a customer support person is talking on the phone to someone, they'll know that, okay, I'm not just trying to solve their problem. Maybe I figured out that, well, actually they're using our CRM. This particular person is using our CRM product because they're trying to scale their sales organization. So when I talk to them about their problem, it's in the context of this job of help me scale my sales organization. So I think you mentioned that too at your work.
Yeah.
You mentioned about saying no to things, and that was
exactly
helpful.
Trying to get everyone aligned under the same banner, and suggestions come left, right, and center. But as an organization gets more complex, decision making gets more complex, and I found it great as a lens to drive people in the same direction.
Yeah.
I wanted to chat a little bit about the work you did with Pipedrive.
Oh yeah, So there's a great video out there. Maybe I'll tweet it as well. You might be able to find it yourself. The founder of Pipedrive talks about how he used this thinking. I worked with his team, and it's a great 10-minute long presentation I've shared, where he talks about how they transformed how their company works, right, around this kind of job thinking. And what they were struggling with, the progress they were seeking, their job to be done really was, they were a startup, that they were around about 500 employees, but they were growing fast. And they were at that point where the founder and the CEO, they can't talk to everyone. You can't get everyone in a room, and it's not like a startup with 10 people. Yeah. It's like, okay, how can we communicate what business that we're in, and how can we share the strategy and the vision of the founders across 500, 600, 700 people and 12 product teams? And of course, and it's just, the complexity. It's like, how do we make sure that these different product teams are not stepping on each other's toes? And I mean, there's just a litany of issues. And so they kind of thought about, okay, and I think they actually didn't want to use the jobs to be done language, because they didn't like the job lingo. They started calling it fireballs. That was they're kind of the framework or the thinking. So the analogy they were using is like Super Mario throwing fireballs. And so the idea is okay, what are the superpowers that we give salespeople, right? That's our business. We give salespeople superpowers to be awesome salespeople, and also we give organizations these superpowers to become successful at running a sales organization. So how can we deliver these fireballs to people? And so they it's pretty cool. If you watch the video, he actually shows it. The product strategy was communicated via a comic book format. So it's these visualization. It's not there's all this text and user research things. It was here is our salesperson who's trying to get control of their sales pipeline. Okay, here's what they look like. Here's all their superpowers. They're doing this. They're doing that. They're happy here. So it's very. I thought they were really great at doing that. So that's how they kind of leveraging this thinking, this superpower analogy to both get a shared vision, but also to communicate a strategy to create a successful product.
Yeah, speaking of shared visions, obviously a company's North Star is critical to their success. And I remember listening to a Jobs to be Done in 5 podcast with you where you talked about how critical it is, how durable it needs to be.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about North Star and jobs thinking?
Yeah, so I think a word you touched on there is the durability of it, or the what makes it safe, all right? This thinking, and I think that one of the ideas, because jobs is really, going back to what we said before, it's okay, why do we buy things in the first place? I mean, let's just kind of start with that, right? Same thing, well, it's because, I'll buy something new because I'm hoping to make some change in my life, or I want to make something better. I clarify a little bit, it's not like buying gas for your car or batteries. This is something meaningful. Why am I buying a car for the first time? Why am I buying a house for the first time? It's making changes, purchase changes. So I want to clarify that. But once you recognize that you're in this business of progress, and I'll mention it too in my talk, and actually maybe I'll give a little example. Like one of my favorite examples is this company Weber that makes grills, right? Well, that's one of the things they make. But they've recognized that, well, actually, we're not in the grill making business. We're in this business of bringing people together. We're in this business of showing off. We're in this business of, help me, relax. Like that's really what their business is in, and that's a strategy that you can hang your hat on. I mean, yes, it's a little abstract, but you can hang your hat on that for 50 years, 100 years. Of course, constraints will change and technologies will change, but that's going to happen. But if you say, okay, we're always in this business of helping people become better in this way, and so as constraints change and as technologies change, we can change along with that, but still have that North Star of this is what we're really in the business of and what people are really buying.
Yeah, interesting. So what organizations in your mind have fully embraced this thinking? From vision on down to product strategy to execution.
Yep. So I think the most comprehensive would be Basecamp. I know that Intercom has talked a lot about it. From what I understand, though, talking with Des and those guys, they use it much more at the strategy level, which is probably one of the best ways to do it. There's other applications too, but I think. Basecamp has gotten much better at really pervading the whole organization. So, and if there's actually a really great article that you can read. It's by Jason, the CEO and founder of Basecamp. It's called the why before the why. So it's like before there's why they bought our product, it's why they shop in the first place. So, again, going back to what Jobs is really trying to understand is why do people use markets? What do products do for them? And so if you read this article, it talks about there's 4 jobs. I can only kind of remember 3 right now. There's one around help us make sure we don't mess up. So people are buying Basecamp because they want to make sure that they're not messing up on a project. They're not forgetting things. There's another job around help make sure everyone is accountable. Help our organization be better at, of course, if there is a mess up, then we can understand, how that mess up happened so we don't do it again. And then other things like help us get started, because that was another problem that people were coming to Basecamp to is, maybe we've just started this project and I don't even know where to begin. I don't know how to begin. So they're in this business of helping people get their project started too. So, and that informs their product strategy, their marketing messaging, their design, just everything throughout the organization.
Interesting. The your book, When Coffee and Kale Compete, you basically, I think I'm going to read the quote correctly, solution-based businesses come and go, but jobs-based ones are built to last.
Yeah.
This is this idea of durability.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? Like, we've talked a little bit about Basecamp. We've talked about how it informs on North Stars. But can you go a bit deeper on that? Like,
yeah. So I'll be specific. So actually, I'll talk about myself, right? So I'm actually building a product right now. I mean, I've experienced as a product manager and having my own businesses, but I'm actually now making something new for the first time. So I am gathering advisors, and I'm bringing on a CTO, and I'm kind of working with him to kind of work with the engineering team. I'm starting to interview designers to help me come up with the look of it and everything. And so I'm able to talk about, again, the progress that I want to deliver organizations and teams and how we're making them better. And that gives everyone, it's kind of like, I like this analogy that Bob Mesta uses. It's like guardrails. It gives us enough freedom to be creative and work together, but just make sure we don't go off the cliff. And so I think that's, when I talk to the CTO about, okay, when he's like, okay, why this? And I can say, okay, well, here's how it ties back to this. Or when I'm talking to a designer, maybe she'll say, okay, we need to have this kind of interaction, or we should move these things around like this. And I'll say, well, but is that really helping with this? I mean, yeah, it makes it look cool, but is that really helping with this over here? And, oh, okay, great. So we're having much better conversations and collaborating much more better.
Right. So switching tracks a little bit, we've talked a lot about company vision, product strategy, aligning people. One of the 12 laws of Agile is the law of flat teams. Obviously, collaboration, as we know, is critical to product success. How could jobs theory be used to help people collaborate better?
Yeah, I think it was kind of what I was just mentioning before a bit, and that is that it helps us. It's the downside. So this is kind of interesting to think about, right? That the downside of any of this kind of thinking is that we are talking about intangible things.
Yeah.
I can't look inside your brain and see like the kind of change you're hoping to make in your life. You might be able to communicate it, but I can't point to something and say like that's what. And I think that's this kind of jobs thinking helps us give us a framework or a thinking to talk about those intangible things that people are experiencing and thinking, and not just jump to like solution language. And I don't think I think we do that because it's easier. I mean, it's much easier to talk in terms of features.
Yeah.
Because that's what we all can point to. And like, okay, should we make this? Oh, you said like chat's popular.
Yeah.
Like, should we add chat? Because people are doing that now apparently. Yeah. And so like that's easy to talk about because like it's like a thing everyone can point to. But if we have some better framework of everyone has in their brain about, okay, here's actually the meaningful change people are going to make with our product, and so we can kind of use this framework of language to talk about it in that sense. And we're collaborating because we all have a shared model of where our customer is and where they want to be. Kind of going back to the Pipedrive example of the fireballs. Like, oh, okay, yeah, here's what the ideal salesperson looks like according to the founders and the strategy people.
So I'm an ambitious product builder at a large organization. How do I get started with jobs to be done?
So I think start with, it's a good question. So it's, again, kind of tie it back to kind of what your meaningful change, like what progress, first maybe start with that, start with yourself. What's the progress I'm looking to make or the organization is looking to make? Or is it help us organizational alignment? Does this give us a way of beating out the competition? Help us figure out better ways of getting more people to buy our product. Start thinking about that, and then depending on the kind of progress that you're thinking about making, then you can start. So, like for example, if it's organizational alignment, just start kind of using some of the language around thinking about progress. Like, okay, well, I just kind of use that language. Okay, well, what's the meaningful change that we're bringing to people? How are people? There's probably already that answer is probably already in people's brains at your company, but maybe no one's asked that question before. It's, okay, well, what was people like before our product, and how will they be because of it? So you can kind of ask questions like that. If you want to think about like in a competition context, okay, we want to get better at beating out the competition or introducing new product categories, then go out there and when people start using your product or if they leave, investigate. Okay, well, great, you bought our product, but what were you using before, right? Why did you switch to us? Some people might say, oh, it was cheaper. Okay, so that's just product quality issue or whatever, that's fine. But if someone says like, oh, well, my life was changing this way, like, why did you buy your first car? Let's talk to people about why they bought a minivan for the first time. Oh, okay, well, they used to live in the city and then they're thinking about moving to the suburbs and they're having kids now. And so there's, this is really kind of what we're in the business of, is helping people, kind of families grow. Like that's, when we think about our product and why people are buying minivans, we can investigate that change from that. So that's maybe kind of two ways. You kind of internally ask people, like, okay, let's talk about what meaningful change that people make with our product or because of our product. Like this is a great question, right? Ask, because of our product, what can they do now that they couldn't do before, right? That's a really great question to ask. But then if you want to get a better sense of competition and why maybe winning or losing against the competition, you can kind of investigate their shopping behavior. Like, okay, you just bought from us or you just stopped buying from us. Who did you switch to? Because actually, this is like such an interesting rabbit hole, but like there's so many, like I remember doing interviews, actually it was on a Pipedrive project, and they had certain people churning, right? The certain category of users churning, and they thought it was something wrong with the product. That's usually like a gut reaction, right? But after we talk with these people who stopped using the product, then we said, okay, well, what did you switch to? And they said nothing. I'm like, oh, really? Well, what happened? Well, we canceled it because I sold my company, or I canceled it because I decided that we sold the company, or you know what, my company went bankrupt. I mean, there's other reasons. So actually, the product was great, but they were churning or leaving the product because their life situation had changed other ways. It was that progress of building a successful sales organization had gone away. So there's so many ways to go with that.
That's great. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, Alan. And I'll encourage you to read his book, When Coffee and Kale Compete. It's a great introduction to jobs thinking and jobs theory.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.